idea. He went on, though, to say we need to make this decision as a conference, not on TV. The Republican conference needs a family discussion. Lisa, it's really hard to see the Republican conference right now as a family.
I mean, I don't know about your family, but dysfunction definitely is part of the family situation in the world. But this family needs like therapy and they need a lot of work. I will say this, though. I think Hearn is not a real candidate. I think McHenry is definitely not a real candidate. I think that the two candidates that are emerging right now, and for sure will be the two, are Jordan and Scalise. And the conference hates the idea about a televised debate because it makes this more of a circus. This already is super embarrassing. It's not terribly helpful. Last time we did this was in 1910. Guess what? In 1912, the Republicans lost control of the House. If we keep it up and we keep looking like petulant toddlers, the voters are going to respond. So we have work to do. And by the way, November 17th is like a minute away. We have got to fund the government. This stopped all momentum. After the CR passed, there were bills that were in the process that were going to get passed, appropriations bills for the first time ever. We were making strides. The conference was working together well. And then all of a sudden, this motion to vacate happens. Kevin McCarthy is out and we are tossed into chaos again. So this alone has stopped that momentum. And now we look at another shutdown, and this one, I think, could be worse.
We should mention the headlines that you just put in front of me here, Kaylee, while we're talking to Lisa Miller. The UAW, it looks like, is going to be at least maintaining, if not escalating, strikes against GM, but not Ford and Stellantis. We're still waiting to hear from Sean Fain on this.
Yeah, this is according to people familiar with the matter who have spoken to our colleagues here at Bloomberg. But remember, Ford and Stellantis each already have been spared one time. GM has not been spared any escalation thus far.
No mercy from Mary Barra.
None at all. And remember, GM said earlier this week, this strike has already cost them $200 million. They were securing a $6 billion line of credit to help protect themselves.
Incredible.
And it looks like they may get hit a little harder. According to our reporting, UAW is considering a plan to strike the GM SUV plant in Arlington, Texas. So, of course, we'll continue to follow this as Sean Fain starts his live stream.
There we go. To Texas, potentially, next. I appreciate that, Kaylee. We'll let you know. Keep your eyes on the terminal. The headlines will let you know what's going on with this story, obviously, as we spend some time with Lisa Camooso Miller. You mentioned the family. Mm-hmm. I thought there were 5 families. Wasn't that the whole narrative of the Republican-led House? It's who can navigate the 5 families, Lisa Camooso Miller. You're from New Jersey. You get this.
I do. But also, this is more than 5 families. It's hard to keep track. What's interesting to me is there's been a lot of reporting about the various blocks, right? So there was discussion yesterday in the media about how Congressman Jordan had gone to the Texas delegation and had gone to the Main Street coalition and had gone to and Scalise obviously is doing the same. He's on the phone. He's working the phones. Nobody knows how to do that better than him and Tom Emmer. But what is different now is that those blocks used to vote all together. They used to be like they would move as one. And that is no longer the case. So going to the Texas delegation is very smart because it's a huge chunk of members and a huge block, but they'll be split. They'll be 50-50. I mean, half will go to Scalise and half will go to Jordan. It will not be a full block of voters. And that's what's different here is that this is not the same race and it's not the same fight. But I think the one thing that makes the conference look smart and strategic is that they not go to the floor before they know who has 218 votes, because we cannot have another repeat of what we saw in the beginning of the year. We have to get back to work.
Yeah, I don't think anyone is eager to go through another 15 rounds and 4 days of trying to get someone the gavel. But it raises the question, Lisa, of just how long it's going to take before this gets to the floor. I mean, we could be looking at weeks. And to your point, we are up against a deadline. That November 17th deadline is like basically just a second away. Can you also just kind of talk about the influence of former President Trump here? As Joe mentioned, Jim Jordan endorsed by the former president last night. Trump was teasing the idea of coming to Capitol Hill next week. We'll see if it happens. But like, how much influence does he have on the conference at this point?
This is a bit of a gamble, I think, for the president and for the former president. And here's why. I know that those 8 that all voted together against Kevin McCarthy are are likely with Trump. But there is a whole section of moderates that are not. And can you imagine how embarrassing this would be if this was another loss for the president? This, to me, is the narrative that so many of those other candidates that have been in those candidate forums, the debates, have been pointing to, is that Donald Trump has a record of losing. And there's one thing that Republicans really want in 24, and that's to win. So this alone could very well be a litmus test for how next November could look. I know we're seeing numbers, and I know Trump is the front runner right now, but this is yet another cut in the erosion of his candidacy, and it adds to the narrative that he's a loser. So that alone is interesting to me. I do think it helps, though, because I think that because he's the front runner, he's raising the most money. People see that, too, as an advantage. So right now, Kaylee, I'm not sure all the way if it's going to be helpful or hurtful. But I do think that when that was announced yesterday that he was with Jordan, that really set his momentum on course for success, because it's good, positive news inside the conference that the former president's going to be with him if he's the speaker. But the other piece of this that doesn't ever get mentioned is that he's not terribly loyal. Mike Kevin, I mean, we remember how he talked about the former speaker, right?
Mike Kevin.
And he said nothing when the speaker was about to be voted out. He never spoke up. I mean, his loyalty is to himself and himself alone. And that, I think, is the thing that people inside the Republican conference see, and they see as a liability. I think they want to be with people like Tom Emmer put every single one of those House Republicans in their seats. I mean, he understands the districts. Nobody is a better collaborator, and no one delivered the past. All the wins that we gave to Kevin McCarthy as speaker came because Tom Emmer knows how to build and rally around an issue.